assume that Greenway and Samuelson are maintenance?
Just maintenance, yeah. Ellis just maintenance too.
Is there anything further on Michael Kesselring?
Yeah, he's going to be out an extended period of time. On the longer side, weeks.
How Zach Benson's progress is?
Good. I talked to him this morning. He's doing well. I think he'll join morning skate tomorrow, so he'll be that close.
Tage is willing to play anywhere, but after the game in Denver, he expressed how much he felt better at center, and he said that he's told you guys that he likes playing there better. Would you ever consider just leaving him there for a bit, or is it just an easy fix?
Why would you assume I wouldn't consider it?
I don't know. I guess he's a natural center. Did you do you think he's better than, or do you?
I can just tell you his numbers last year playing with who he was when he was at center, and his numbers when he played the wing. His points per game were better, so it kind of leaned to having him over there. Right now, it leans toward leaving him right in the middle. He's playing well, skating well. It's a great situation to be in.
Has he been even more, he's always been an assertive player, but has he been more assertive in the last few games? I mean, he's moved with authority. I mean, we've seen him go.
Yeah, I really think he has skated well. But we've changed a little bit of our structure the last little bit too, which I think has helped us.
In what way?
It's just stuff I'm not going to get into really.
With Isak and Noah, obviously they're never going to be the biggest, strongest guys on the ice. But I'm curious, in your experience in the league, what separates the guys that make it, even when they're not the biggest, strongest guys versus the guys that
quickness, lateral movement, the ability to handle a puck in just small areas really quickly. It usually separates you when you're a smaller player. I really think the biggest thing is how quick you can get away from somebody. The cutbacks, stopping on a dime and turning up and making that next play, where a lot of times the bigger guy, longer stick, doesn't make those type of plays.
Jack Quinn he hasn't scored in a while, but I think a lot of nights he's been pretty noticeable, assertive. I guess what?
Yeah, he's leading it. He led the chances in the Detroit game, 2-on-1s and grade A chances, and then last game again, real good grade A. I really thought the more grade A he would get, would go in the back of the net. Hasn't gone yet, but I sort of envision that as soon as it does start going in, it could be one of those ones where all of a sudden, Jack's a good shooter. We saw that last year. I mean, he isn't getting. Last year he didn't get near as many chances and scored. This year he's getting twice as many chances, but it hasn't fallen the back of the net. But it will.
About McDavid and Draisaitl last night, you talked about staying 5 in tight with them. There were also some times where guys stepped up to make a hit. How do you balance trying to get a body on them, knowing how dangerous they are if you miss?
It's just part of your structure, really, of you have a second guy supporting that first guy, because both those guys are tough to handle one-on-one. McDavid, his cutbacks are better than anybody in this league. He can get away from anybody. If you're inside, if your first guy misses, you've got that secondary help. But I thought we did a good job of having, most times having 5 guys back. You send a second guy, you're going to open up somebody else, but most of the time that guy was on the perimeter.
Colton Ellison has had to have been patient. He started in the East Coast League, then he goes to the American Hockey League, then he goes on waivers, then he comes to Buffalo, and then finally gets his opportunity at age 25. How important is it for a young player to understand the development and understanding he has to be patient?
I think Paul, as you know, there's lots of great stories about the patience. I was here the first time when we put Jason Pominville on waivers, and you would have never thought anything like that, and where he ended up and what his career looked like afterwards too. Some guys take a little bit longer. defensemen goalies typically take longer. And I think that's because of the stress of the situation. You know, you make a mistake as a defenseman, you're giving up a big chance. You make, you know, a big mistake as a goaltender, it's in the back of your net and all eyes are on you. As a forward, you know, I've always referenced it's kind of easy. You make a mistake. Sometimes it doesn't get noticed because you got D that cover you up or a goaltender covers you up. So a lot of times with a guy like Ellis, it takes time. It takes a good period of games before you can really become, I would say, seated in this league.
You talked at the end of camp when you picked him up that he was a guy. There were a few young goalies out there. He was a guy that you guys had on the radar. How much of that, came from, intel from Rochester too when they saw him in Springfield?
Some of it. You got to give our scouts a lot of credit that saw him play. Management and scouts were the guys that, had him targeted as a guy that, if he went on waivers, should be somebody we would look at. So maybe it was right place at the right time.
What made him able to seize this moment? Because we see a lot of goalies get playing on waivers and they get a look and then they, they go back on waivers or something happens. But, I mean, he seemed just really, obviously, ready for his opportunity.
But, I don't know if you can answer that. I think you answered it yourself. It just seemed like he was ready for this opportunity. Had never really been given one. If you look at his American League numbers the year before, the save percentage and goals against, real good numbers. And, I know sometimes maybe that doesn't correlate, when you come up. Sometimes that goalie will come up and he might have been playing in front of a real good team in the minors, and he comes up and he's maybe not playing with as good a team in the NHL. And it's kind of a mix of, what has to happen for a goalie for him to take advantage of that chance.
Like you're getting close to a point where the three goalie thing isn't going to be sustainable, or do you feel like, you got some guys coming back from injury where you're going to have some decisions to make?
Yeah, I think we'll as soon as we get players coming back, it's going to force, some decisions, whether that means, an extra forward has to go down, or, short term you carry 6D, whatever that is. The three goalies will force us into a hand that we'll have to make decisions.
Not dressing, is that just a way
Right,
to get him a little
basically just to rest and, kind of planning out if you're not going to play and you're going to use them, let's say we use them Friday or whatever it is, why have them sitting on the bench?
As far as Tyson Kozak goes, his assist last night, he looked off a guy. It was a nice assist. What does that illustrate to you, just the way he created that play?
I think the growth, really, of not just turning and whipping that to the net. I think there's such a balance because you can see some of the chances we passed up in the first period where, I could hear you guys giving it the ooh, boo, or maybe it wasn't you guys. That was Paul. Yeah, and I knew it was somebody. But anyways, so he doesn't shoot that. If that pass goes past that forward over there and hits the wall, you're going to go, oh, God, why didn't he shoot it? So, it's hard to criticize, what they see on the ice. You just can't scream, shoot the puck all the time. If a goalie has clear-sighted vision and you're shooting from there, the percentage chance of that going in is very, very small. Getting him to move and fight through a little bit of traffic, odds go way up. So we try to balance that. We're getting better at balancing that.